is now or never. Undecided voters could be the key to winning it all in November. A recent Monmouth University poll shows that they prefer the undecideds, Clinton 53% to Donald Trump 41%. So what do undecideds need to hear tonight to seal the deal? Here to weigh in, liberal radio talk show host Leslie Marshall and Arizona GOP Chairman Robert Graham. Thank you both for joining us early this morning.
Good morning.
So, Leslie, I'll start with you, and just the obvious question. I mean, you can see the difference right there in terms of the undecideds and who they're leaning towards. What are they looking to hear tonight from both of the candidates?
Well, if you look at polls, if you look at social media, or calling into talk shows such as my program, the undecideds say they really care about the issues and they are tired of the personal attacks on both sides. But because more of the attacks have seemed, at least in the debates, coming from Donald Trump toward Hillary Clinton, that's hurt him with undecideds. They also felt that a lot of her experience and knowledge, staying calm in the past two debates, has benefited them. Red Sweater Ken Bone even said he was a pro-Trump guy going into the second debate, but she really impressed him with her knowledge, and he was leaning toward her after that last debate.
I believe that he's going to be on Fox and Friends later today. Robert, in terms of the issues, we have entitlements, debt entitlements, immigration, economy, the Supreme Court, foreign hotspots, and fitness to be president. Which one of those topics, or is there one that's more important than the other for the undecided voters?
Well, I think the undecideds are really looking at three critical areas. You know, Leslie talked about experience, and that's exactly what people are looking at with the experience Donald Trump has with jobs and job creation, whereas Hillary Clinton has 30 years of experience not doing a whole heck of a lot for the American people. So number one, I think that's one thing. The other thing is we talk about opportunity. You've got a CEO that's had a track record of creating tens of thousands of jobs, and right now in states like Arizona and other states, they're hurting for jobs. They wanted to take pressure off the taxpayers, and so they look at him and say, hey, you've done this, please get on the issue and focus on it so we can understand how you're going to bring jobs. And lastly, I think is the biggest one, and that's security. I mean, I have a sweet little daughter, Faith, 13 years old, who's afraid to go to movie theaters because she thinks that somebody's going to come out with guns. And so whether it's an ISIS thing or it's an immigration thing, really at this point, Americans want jobs, opportunity, and safety. And that's where Trump has to stay on that message, and I think that's going to really pull a lot of undecided over. Well, they want to like Trump.
Well, what about some of the other issues that have been front and center? You know, we have all of these WikiLeaks emails that have come through. We've talked about some of those. We also have these YouTube videos that have been posted online that show some of the Democratic operatives talking about behind-the-scenes dealings with how they get votes. Should Donald Trump bring that up, Robert?
Absolutely. You know, you hear about, he's talked a lot about the election being rigged. It's not just in the sense of the condition of the polling stations or bad behavior, bad actors at the polling stations. It goes back to kind of the mainstream media. But then you see this intentional antagonistic behavior from Hillary Clinton's operatives, and what they're doing, they plot in ways to antagonize, bring people and bring conflict. So that has to be, because this is coming from leadership that's associated with her over the years, and it's been absolutely destructive for his campaign in some ways, but she's now being damned in so many different ways because people are now saying enough's enough, and the emails are one thing, but it's just a pattern of bad behavior that's putting pressure on her campaign.
Leslie, what about that?
I'm sorry, I just don't see that. I mean, I see the polls trending upward, 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 whether it's in battleground states, whether it's with undecided voters, independents, millennials, women's, African-American, Latinos, on a national level across the board. With regard to experience with jobs, nobody mentions, even Hillary, and I'll yell at the TV, that Donald Trump himself as a CEO sent jobs to Mexico and to China. The American people need to hear that. And quite frankly, that doesn't help him to bring up the WikiLeaks, because I think most people now, Heather, have seen not what's actually in the WikiLeaks, but somebody said something they didn't say in reference to an actual email that WikiLeaks leaked.
Yeah.
So I think facts, but not the fiction that we see a lot of out there on the internet.
Robert?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me to hear a liberal radio show talk show person say that the WikiLeaks doesn't matter. I mean, she heard not only WikiLeaks, but we've seen these countless emails that are coming forward that actually demonstrate that she's purging America, a perjury to America. And this is it's a sad reality when she keeps getting the pass and she's not being held accountable for it. So it's one of these things where
Yeah, that's it. I mean.
That's it.
Sorry.
That's the magic.
Thank you, Robert. And Leslie,
No
thank
problem.
you for joining us. We will have you back, though,
Thank
to
you.
finish your thoughts. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you both for joining us this morning.
It's good to be here.
Bright and
Thanks.
early.
Good
Not
morning.
as early as it was about an hour ago, though. So let's talk about these undecideds. There are the same Monmouth poll found about 4% of voters are still undecided. So it could definitely make a difference in this race. It is still so close in so many states. Leslie, what do those undecided voters need to hear?
Well, they need to hear specifics, and this is from both candidates on the questions posed, as opposed to personal attacks or defending themselves from personal attacks. They want to hear policies. But I have to tell you, Heather, I don't buy that 4%. I think almost everybody in their heart of hearts is pretty much decided at this point, and I don't think what happens tonight, unless there's some kind of huge October surprise on either side, is going to sway anybody further at this point, honestly.
Robert, what do you think in terms of the issues? Which issues do the undecideds need to hear for them to make up their mind?
Yeah, I think I agree with the idea that it has to be issue focused and not the personal attacks. But if you look really at undecideds and Americans, for the most part, they want jobs, opportunity, prosperity, safety. They want the pressure to come off, and they're looking for somebody to come out with solutions. And again, last time we heard from Mr. Trump, and he talked very specifically how to bring jobs back to our country. And on the other side, you've heard promises from Clinton that really haven't manifested themselves into reality when she was a state senator or what have you. So I think right now, it's really the pressure off. And so these undecideds are more than able to move. We've seen them doing that the last couple months.
But at the same time, Leslie, how does Donald Trump not mention some of the latest issues that have developed leading up to this debate? We have those videotapes, the undercover tapes by that organization that allege that protesters were paid for by the DNC. We have the quid pro quo emails that are happening. We have the foreign governments or foreign entities giving money to the Clinton Foundation. Should he bring those up?
I think he will, and I think he has to bring some of those up because obviously people are curious and that Secretary Clinton needs to answer that. But I think she needs to be very careful because remember, with certain things, if he attacks the Clinton Foundation, certainly she could attack the Trump Foundation, and then it just goes back and forth into personal attacks. And then the voters, for November 8th aren't getting the answers that they want regarding specifics on the economy, on jobs, on homeland security, on foreign policy. So I think he's going to bring that up, and I think this is where Donald Trump gets into trouble because then he becomes defensive if she were to say, well, what about the Trump Foundation and that type of thing.
And he could just
and that's
say,
not
well,
going to
I
help
wasn't
either of them.
Secretary of State, and my husband, I didn't have a husband who was president. Robert, what do you think?
Yeah, I think really where you get to the point, I think any leaders, people want to trust the person that they elect, the people that they get behind. And you've had years and years of this deceit or dishonesty, and now we're on the emails and the Clinton Foundation. It has to be said, and people want the answers. You get to this point where, yeah, he might lean into it. He's going to have to be more aggressive because he's going to have to get the points out. I don't think it takes away from the issue. I think many people want to hear more about it, and they quite haven't gotten a true answer from Hillary, and that's one of the reasons why dishonesty is the #1 thing that people relate Hillary Clinton to.
Yes, come down to the unfavorables and which candidate is the least unfavorable. But maybe they can turn all that around tonight. We'll see. With Chris Wallace being the moderator, it will certainly be a good one.
That's right.
All right. Thank you both
Definitely.
for joining us. Leslie Marshall, Robert Graham, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.